Are you tired of all those hair loss treatments and products that claim to work but don't? My name's William Gaunitz, and I am your no frills, no BS certified trichologist that is going to help you understand how to tackle your hair loss and actually regrow hair. Hello, everyone. My name is William Gaunitz. I am the host of the Trichologist podcast. I'm your no frills, no BS hair loss treatment provider. And at the end of the day, we are going to talk about stopping hair loss and really regrowing some hair. And there are a lot of ways to do that. And really today, we're going to talk about some nutritional hair loss and how you can correct things with the nutritional hair loss scenario. And that is the most overlooked issue in hair loss, period, the end. I actually just did a presentation at the World Trichology Congress on nutritional hair loss and what I believe you need to do to essentially stop the progression of hair loss and undermine the causes of hair loss through nutrition. And we are going to talk about that today. And so, but first, definitely go ahead and check out our sponsor, which is Advanced Trichology. Advanced Trichology is, in my opinion, the most complete and aggressive way to handle your hair loss. So please go ahead and go to advancedtrichology.com, go up in the top right-hand corner, take the quiz, find out what reason you're dealing with for hair loss. Because at the end of the day, again, you could be dealing with 1, 2, 3 different reasons for hair loss. The Gaunitz Trichology method says, and I have tried to break it, and I have not been able to break it yet, that there are only 3 reasons for hair loss, and you must completely tackle each one. If you leave any of the doors open, then your hair could continue to fall out, even though you've done everything else right in other categories. So go take the quiz at advancedtrichology.com, and obviously there will be an output. Go ahead and subscribe to the products that output has created, and you'll be better for it. So go ahead and do that. So with that said, let's dive into nutritional loss. So I have actually said on numerous occasions that you really can control hair loss with diet and lifestyle alone, with the exception of genetic loss. So it means that realistically, with the exception of DHT influencing your hair follicles, if you have genetic loss, you can control hair loss completely with diet and lifestyle. Now, if we did that, then we would be living in a completely different world, because quite frankly, this world that we live in, a modern world, is just perfect for hair loss. It is just creating more and more reasons every single day about why we should be losing our hair. And we're wandering around looking at each other going, why are we all losing hair? And it's because lifestyle and diet in the modern world creates these problems. So let's just go to diet for this. We're talking nutrition. So let's just talk about diet, for example. So vegans, vegetarians, anybody who limits animal protein is instantly creating a problem theoretically for their hair. And that comes from B vitamins, comes from inflammatory issues. It comes from iron, vitamin D, zinc. These are things that you get from animal products. And we as humans are omnivores, and we are genetically bred to be that. And we should be eating meat for general purposes. Now, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan and you've got obviously reasons for that, I totally get it. I was a vegetarian for 9 years. Unfortunately, it wreaked havoc upon my body. But you need to understand that being all in on anything, unfortunately, when it comes to a diet, is not necessarily the right move, especially for your hair. So paleo, the amount of paleo can be very, very good for a lot of people. But I've actually seen the paleo diet specifically cause loss. And there's a client of mine who's, fairly well known, who, if you are hearing this, I'm talking to you. And the paleo actually created a level of inflammation in his body that ended up ultimately making his hair loss almost unmanageable. So hopefully we've dialed that in. So paleo is an issue. Being anything all the time is challenging for your body when it comes to diet. So these are things that you need to look at a balanced diet. You need to look at making sure that you are specifically giving your body what it needs, because you are an individual. And why would I take exactly what you're taking? Because you might be a 95-pound female and me as a 180-pound male. I'm going to have a different lifestyle, most likely. And then you're going to have other people who are losing hair be for a completely different reason when it comes to different dietary components, even though they might be the same build as you, they might be the same genetic makeup as you, but the lifestyle is just a little different. So the core things that you have to look at when it comes to nutrition is, realistically, you should always get blood work. If you get blood work, you're not guessing. So again, you've got DHT related loss, which I already did an episode on that. We have inflammatory loss, which I'll do an episode on in the future. But nutritional loss can actually influence both of the other reasons for hair loss. So purely nutritional loss can aggravate inflammatory loss. It can also aggravate DHT related loss. So we need to dial this in. So get the blood work. So you can actually get the blood work now at advancedtrichology.com too. There's actually panels specifically for full nutritional panels. So again, go to Advanced Trichology. You can find those panels there under the blood test section. But realistically, what you should be getting, just as a general rule for nutritional loss, get a vitamin D3 blood level, get a ferritin and a serum iron blood level, get a zinc blood level, and also find out your blood type if you don't know it. If the world in general would just eat accordance to their blood type, in my opinion, general hair loss would be reduced by at least 50%. At least. People wouldn't be losing hair as early. People wouldn't be ultimately getting some inflammatory issues that would also lead to loss. So find out your blood type and eat in accordance to it. So one day in the future, perhaps we'll talk about that. But there's a book called Eat Right for the Blood Type. It breaks down each individual blood type. Basically follow that. It's Dr. Diamo, and he has this information already printed. So just find out your blood type, eat in accordance to it. Also, you need to know, again, is zinc, vitamin D3, and basically 2 iron levels, ferritin and serum iron. If you can find those blood levels out, you can eat or supplement to make sure that your levels are in the optimal range. So you're going to go and you're going to get blood work from your medical provider. Typically, you're going to get a metabolic panel, you go to CBC, and that's all well and good to find out your cholesterol, your hemoglobin, your general wellness, just to find out, how is your body functioning? Are there inflammatory markers? Is there something off? That's what those are there for. They're not there for key nutritional levels. There are 1,008, I believe, standard medical blood level panels in the United States. So those are 2 sets. So there are a variety of different sets. So you want to get specific. You want to get specific because I've had numerous scenarios where people did everything right. And by everything right, they're on the right DHT blockers. They're using topical and internal things. They're using low-level laser therapy, minoxidil, even doing PRP. Yet they never paid attention to their blood levels. So none of those treatments did anything. And when I mean anything, you could theoretically go through a year of heavily treating yourself with those components, spending tens of thousands of dollars in certain circumstances, and get no results. And the one thing that was holding you back could have been ferritin, because your ferritin level, for whatever reason, was 20 and you needed it to be 100. And that one little tiny detail held you back to success in growing your hair. And you may have had this phenomenal hair regrowth if that one blood level was corrected. Or it could be vitamin D3. 80% of the human population is vitamin D3 deficient. So it really would make a lot of sense that you are part of that 80%, and that could be problematic for you. So you probably need to be taking vitamin D3, because if you're inside all the time, like I am, and when we're outside, we're wearing sunscreen, which blocks the absorption of vitamin D3. And Essentially, there's no other time that you'd be getting vitamin D except from the sun. And maybe you live in a northern climate and you're not outside regularly anyway. You probably are vitamin D3 deficient. Now, there is a medical range again, and then there is a trichological range. So if you want to be for the trichological range for your hair, at least 60 nanograms per milliliter. So if you got a blood test for vitamin D3 recently, pull it up. It matters in the last 90 days. Pull it up and see what that number is. If it's less than 60 nanograms per milliliter, which is the standard measurement in the United States, then you need to be more. Now, if it's like 50, okay, well, that's close. That's not bad. If it's 40, not good, not terrible, but you still need to get that up. If it's 30, you've got problems. If you're less than 30, then you've got big problems, and it is without a shadow of a doubt influencing your hair. So that is vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is a hormone. It actually interferes or helps assist in processing androgens. It helps your liver function appropriately. You actually have a vitamin D receptor in your hair. So if it's low, it is going to throttle back the overall volume of hair that you're creating. I have seen in many circumstances that someone has lost upwards of 70% of their overall volume, and nutritional loss is diffused throughout the entire head. It is not just on the top. It is throughout the entire scalp, and oftentimes it can influence other areas of your body. And with that vitamin D being low in multiple circumstances, I mean, we're talking in single digits, so less than 10. I have seen individuals lose upwards of 70% of their hair. And every physician didn't check it. Or if they did, they dismissed it. So it is a huge deal, and it makes a massive difference on so many levels. COVID actually brought out the fact that vitamin D helps obviously support your immune system. So if your vitamin D is low, you have a higher propensity of getting sicker from COVID. So make sure your vitamin D is good. That is one of those nutrients that you need to take if you're not in the appropriate blood levels. So again, things that cause problems, obviously, if you're not out in the sun, you're not going to get vitamin D. If you are in the sun and you're wearing sunscreen, you're blocking the UVB rays, you're not going to get the vitamin D. So ferritin. Ferritin is the second most overlooked. Ferritin is your iron storage protein. It is your iron savings account. Your body needs to save iron for a rainy day because in our evolutionary process, at some point, you probably would have normally been starving in a normal lifetime of a human, and you would have needed to bank iron in your blood. And that iron keeps every cell in your body functional. If your red blood cells, your hemoglobin, basically are beginning to decline, it is life-threatening. So if you don't have enough iron, eventually you will die because your body requires iron. I'm not saying that if you're not eating red meat, obviously anything bad is going to happen right away, but I'm saying long-term, your body requires iron. It is what makes your blood red, literally. So if you are a vegetarian, or if you are a vegan, or if you are limiting animal protein in any way, then it is going to probably decrease your overall ferritin stores or your iron savings account. You become anemic, and you're classified as anemic essentially when your serum iron gets low. So I use this checking and savings account analogy because it makes sense to me and it makes sense to some other people. So if your ferritin is your savings account and your serum iron is your checking account, your serum iron is what's literally paying the bills every day. So it's going and making sure that your red blood cells are being created. It's making sure that your immune system is working properly. It's essentially paying all of your iron bills. If you are working out heavily, it's helping rebuild muscle. It is allowing your body to function normally. And your body, if your savings account is low, is going to go, whoa, we need to cut back on expenses. So if your hair, the second most rapidly dividing cell on your body behind bone marrow, then it is going to throttle back the expenditures of iron so that your internal organs, that your blood, that your overall immune system is going to function properly, because obviously your body is genius. It is a miracle that your body can, without you having to consciously think about anything, will throttle your nutrients to keep you alive. So if it thinks that your hair is expendable, which it does, then it's going to go, okay, well, we need to save this iron for our internal organs. So let's do that. So it will literally throttle back the overall volume of hair growing out of each individual hair follicle. If you have 100,000 hairs growing on your head, you've got obviously tens and tens of thousands of hair follicles on your scalp. You can grow upwards of 6 hairs out of each follicle. The average is typically 3 though. It will literally cut back the overall number of hairs per hair follicle. It will decrease the diameter of those individual hairs until it is reduced dramatically. And it will also compromise other aspects of your immune system, especially on your scalp, because again, your body's focused on the inside. So when you're decreasing your overall iron and then your ferritin drops or your vitamin D drops, then you will increase the amount of bacteria inside your hair follicle. It will increase the amount of fungus, theoretically the amount of parasites that are living off of your hair follicles. It opens the door for problems. So you want your ferritin to be at least 70 nanograms per milliliter. So if you've got a recent blood test for ferritin, which if you do, I'd be kind of shocked, honestly. But if you do, then you want to make sure that blood level is at least 70 nanograms per milliliter. If you are an O or a B blood type, I would recommend it's above 100 nanograms per milliliter. So A's can get away with 70 nanograms per milliliter because they are natural vegetarians. So I talk about eating right for your blood type. Again, get the book. O's are carnivores. A's are natural vegetarians. B's are kind of a mix. And ABs are a small percentage of the human population. They can kind of go either direction, like A or B. So find out your blood type, eat in accordance to it. So you want to make sure your serum iron is in the middle of the range. You want to make sure that your ferritin is theoretically in the middle, but at least 70 nanograms per milliliter. And then it leaves us with zinc. So zinc is measured typically as serum zinc. And as long as you're splitting the range, because there's different blood levels or different ranges for zinc, as long as you're splitting the range, you're in pretty good shape. If you're close to the lower aspect of it, then you need to do something with zinc. And the problem is that if you have gut issues, so constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, leaky gut, if you're on medications, then it may be blocking your absorption of zinc. Some other things that end up blocking absorption of iron are calcium. If you're taking iron with, calcium with coffee or tea, the tannins in the coffee and tea actually help block the absorption of iron. And those are components that you need to consider as well on how each one of these individual blood levels is working with your lifestyle. So zinc, you'll find a lot of in meat. And so it's really easy if you are eating meat to have an abundance of iron and an abundance of zinc. There's an abundance of B vitamins in meat. But if you are an A blood type, you need to make sure that you're eating in accordance to your blood type, because again, going back to the blood type, it can be, depending upon your ecosystem, you may have to get these nutrients from different ways. So going back to vitamin D, iron, and zinc, those are the big ones that you really need to focus on. So some lifestyle factors that can become problematic when it runs into those. So again, not eating red meat. Red meat, first of all, is the most bioavailable form of iron. And I'm not preaching that everybody should go out and be a carnivore. I'm simply giving you the facts. And I've seen this when somebody tells me they're a vegetarian or a vegan, and they've been a strict vegan or vegetarian for a long time. I instantly know that there is a nutritional problem. It is very, very rare that there isn't one in that category. And if somebody's been a paleo for a very long time and they're not getting specific nutrients, it kind of depends on their blood type. O blood types can do very well with paleo. A blood types do not do well with paleo. We'll talk about that in just a second. But these are things that you need to pay attention to. So red meat, if you're eating a lot of red meat, you're probably okay, except if you're an A. But that gives you zinc, biotin, B12, folate. It gives you a lot of B vitamins. It gives you all the iron. It gives you the things that you need typically. But everybody's demands are a little bit different. So to go into the demands on your body, so everybody's vitamin D demand is relatively the same. So with the exception of when you are a person who has a lot of melanin in your skin. So you're African American, you could be of Latin descent, you could just have you could be Italian, a lot of melanin genetically in your skin. Melanin attracts light or UVB light to the melanin, which then is not absorbed into your skin as vitamin D3. So then you have a higher need for vitamin D3. So be conscious of that. So if you have darker skin, it is also probable that you have a higher need for vitamin D because you're not getting it from the sun. So, and it's not as easy for you to get it from the sun. If you are, vitamin D is relatively straightforward. So that's vitamin D. If it's iron, so you've got ferritin and you've got serum iron. So at the end of the day, it's still consuming iron in your diet. So what really are factors that play into that? So the average male and the non-menstruating female will only require about 10 milligrams of iron per day. So if you are working out a lot, if you're doing a lot of cardio, a lot of weightlifting, your needs are going to be a little bit higher because you're putting a lot of stress on your body in the sense that it needs to rehabilitate itself. But that's pretty straightforward, 10 milligrams of iron, which isn't a lot. So you can get that from a lot of different ways. So, and if your gut is working really well, you're going to absorb these things probably a little better than if you are having, constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux. So that's pretty straightforward. If you are a menstruating female, so if you are a female that's losing a lot of blood on a monthly basis, especially if a female it has PCOS, so you're having these long drawn out menstrual cycles, then you are dumping iron. Literally, I mean, your blood, as you're just purging blood from your body, your needs for iron go up dramatically. So the countless number of, young actresses or models that have ended up in my office in Laguna Beach or San Diego, and they are going, I went to every physician in LA and no one can help me. I'm here with you. Can you help me? And the first thing I do is go, has anyone tested your ferritin? And without fail, no. What's ferritin? And then I do the whole, it's urine storage protein and all that stuff. And we test it every single time. And I'm thinking, just to make sure this is true, every single time, and I'm just double checking in my mind, their ferritin has been low and it was overlooked. So they get PRP and they spent, tens of thousands of dollars. PRP is very expensive in a lot of places in Los Angeles. So they literally could have spent $10,000 on 4 rounds of PRP. They may have been on minoxidil. They may be on all the supplements except iron, and they're still dumping hair, and they're in perfect health for the most part. They look great. What's going on? And most of the time it's ferritin. So in that scenario, women of menstruating age and who are menstruating require typically around 35 milligrams of iron per day just to be normal. So that is substantially higher than a male or a non-menstruating female. So because of that, you need to compensate for that. So if you are a female and you are 16, 17, 18, and you are losing your hair in that age, or even less than 25, quite frankly, then it is most probable that you are losing hair because you have lost a tremendous amount of iron from menstruating. when you're looking at ferritin and you're looking at the overall aspect of what's going on with your body. And so if you are a menstruating female and you require this 35 milligrams of iron per day, then you ultimately need to make sure that you have enough in your diet. So if you are a menstruating female and you are a vegetarian, of course you're losing hair because the requirements are so high on your body. So that is one of those things that you have to pay attention to. You got to look at diet and you got to look at the overall requirements on your body at this particular point in time. So zinc is one of those things that it's actually pretty easy to get zinc. So most of the time, if you move on and you look at zinc, then you're going to, a little bit of zinc is going to go a long way. So most of the time, if you're on any type of nutritional supplement, then you're going to end up having enough zinc that's going to kind of balance things out. So usually between 15 and 30 milligrams of zinc per day is fine. If you've got an inflammatory issue, then you are going to probably need more zinc. And there are certain gut issues that, again, IBS, leaky gut, that are, you are going to not absorb zinc as well as you probably should. And there are some other things that may play a role. There are actually a high level of certain vegetables that can actually help block the absorption of zinc. But when you look at it all, if you get a blood test, then you'll know exactly what you need because, again, you are an individual and you must find these things out. So let's go back to it again. Zinc, vitamin D3, ferritin, and your serum iron. You get those levels and you make sure that they are good. So again, we're going to go back. Ferritin needs to be at least 70 nanograms per milliliter. Your vitamin D needs to be at least 60 nanograms per milliliter. And you need to know your typical amount of items that you need. Like, do you need vitamin D3? Do you need zinc? Which ones do you need? So with that in mind, those are the big ones that you need to pay attention to. So go ahead and get those blood tests. Make sure that you have compensated for this. And in today's world, again, we're on the go. We're making choices in our diet that could be really just creating problems for us. Because if you are, when I ask people questions about what they're eating, I say, what are you eating every day regularly? So they may be eating foods that are inflammatory for them. So getting into some of these things, the idiosyncrasies to the eat right for the blood type. I'll talk about my story a little bit. So I'm an O blood type. In 2008, 2009, I started to look at this test group that I had. I had an abundance of unusual outcomes that I was working with in Phoenix, because at the time there were 3 locations that were sort of funneling people that did not do well in our standard program to me. And it was my job to figure out what was going on with these people. So I actually, for whatever reason, was looking at blood type at the time for something else. And I noticed that 85% of the test group, give or take, were O blood types. Well, there's only 41% of the human population that is an O blood type. So this is statistically double what it should be. And at the time, my recommendation for essentially what you should be eating was a vegetarian. I said, everybody, you need to be kind to your liver. You need to be kind to your kidneys. Be a vegetarian. That is the best way to do that. And you should carry on by being kind to your liver. So that produced a lot of people eating out of accordance with their blood type. So I ended up, because of my own situation, because again, I was a vegetarian for 9 years, I hadn't had red meat in almost 9 years. And I ended up going to Zurich. And it's really hard to be a vegetarian in Zurich because they really like to eat meat there. And I was trying to find a vegetarian meal, and I just, my gut was all screwed up, and my body, was having all sorts of other inflammatory issues, but they run in my family. And I never really paid much attention to it. I was in Zurich and I didn't have a choice but to eat a burger. And I was like, you know what? I haven't had a burger in forever. I think it was my birthday, actually. I'm like, I'm just going to have a burger. So I went and I had a burger. And for the first time, and I don't know how long, the amount of energy that I got from eating red meat, it was just like I was invigorated. But as an O blood type, my body was probably starving for all of these things that I wasn't testing for at the time, zinc, ferritin, serum iron, copper, B vitamins, these things that I was supplementing for a little bit, but nothing to basically what you need to compensate for by eating it. So that played into paying attention, obviously, to these blood types. And when I started applying the formula of eating correctly for the blood type, and I actually tried to repair their gut a little bit too with probiotics, prebiotics, and a natural antifungal, which is now built into Advanced Trichology DHT blocker. In this test group, we eliminated basically 80% of the entire test group in 90 days because we fixed their diet and we fixed their gut. And that was it. And so because of that, this group of people that would not respond to low-level laser therapy, minoxidil, other vitamins, this right scalp products, all these things, they just straight up didn't respond after 9 months. That's why they were in my office. When we had them eat in accordance to their blood type and obviously help repair their gut if they had gut issues, then they started growing hair. I mean, what a difference. Like it was so simple. So realistically, you must pay attention to this, because if you have tried any other products and it didn't work for you, maybe you even tried Advanced Trichology products and you were on the wrong ones, or maybe you weren't on enough, then you need to get your blood levels tested. So I cannot just express to you how dramatic of an issue it is. So go ahead and get your blood levels tested. If you're a vegetarian, vegan, paleo, if you're on a strict diet, you even more so need to get this done. If you're a menstruating female and you're losing hair and you're under the age of 25, you definitely need to go look at this. Statistically, I looked at another anomaly. 25% of our male clients under the age of 25, 95% of our male clients under the age of 25 are vitamin D3 deficient. And again, the environment that we live in is breeding these problems. It's breeding issues with nutrition and blood levels, and then let's look at medications. I haven't even touched on that. We'll go through that pretty quickly now. Medications can inherently increase your demands for certain nutrients. So because your body is buffering the medications, even most specifically proton pump inhibitors. So if you have an acid reflux problem, oftentimes you'll end up on Nexium, which is a proton pump inhibitor. There's all sorts of different names for these. But what it's doing is blocking the output of acid in your gut. And that's great to minimize reflux, but it will actually block your absorption of iron dramatically. It's in the medical aspect of the side effect sheet that comes with the product that it can create hair loss because of the lack of absorption of iron. So you look at those medications, and if you're on a proton pump inhibitor, there's definitely a problem. The other one, warfarin, which is a blood thinner. If you're on a blood thinner, there's probably other medical problems too. But if you're on warfarin, it manipulates its blood thinner. It manipulates your blood to a point where it decreases your absorption of certain minerals and vitamins as well. So certain times you have to be on medication. There's nothing you can do about it. But if you can minimize some of those medications, like maybe there are prophylactic medications, but if you can minimize some of those medications with your physician under medical supervision, then it may improve your nutrient absorption. So also if there's gut issues, again, I keep saying constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, these are key symptoms for inflammatory hair loss. But if those exist and your gut is having problems, then you are probably not absorbing the nutrients as well. So you will need more of them in your diet for that to increase. So general rules. So vitamin D3, the average individual needs approximately and this is my experience, so 3,000 international units per day in a normal lifestyle environment. And by normal, I'm talking about standard environment for the United States. So we have in the advanced trichology product, there's 2,000 international units in the follow growth vitamin, which helps quite a bit. But you probably need more. So that's why you need your blood tested. Couple general rules. If you are ultimately deficient by, let's just say your vitamin D3 is 30 nanograms per milliliter. General rule, if you're trying to get to 60, is that you will need to take approximately 5,000 units per day for 6 months to get to approximately 60 nanograms per milliliter. So basically, by taking 5,000 units per day, you will move 5 blood level points per month. So for ferritin, the general rule is you must triple your intake of iron to begin banking ferritin. And that is far more variable, so there isn't a really clean format for that. But if you're tripling your need for iron, so if you are a non-menstruating female or a male, then you should be taking around 30 milligrams per day. If you are a menstruating female, you should be taking around 90 milligrams a day to increase your overall ferritin levels. And you will need to do that for a period of time as your body gets used to that increased amount of iron, and it will bank it as ferritin. When you're moving the needle for each one of these, you don't want to get too high on ferritin. You don't want to get too high on vitamin D. So you need to always follow up with an additional blood test after 90 days or discontinue that treatment. Because the amount of times that I've seen somebody go on vitamin D and they're like, I'm going to go on 10,000 units of vitamin D, and they never stop. And so all of a sudden, 2 years later, their vitamin D is 140 and they're getting joint pain and they're getting all this other inflammatory issues because their vitamin D is so high. So it exceeds 100. Now all of a sudden that's too much. That's why you need blood tests. I keep saying it, just go out and get the blood tests. And if you need help getting those blood tests, Advanced Trichology can get those blood tests for you in an outpatient format. So go ahead and get those. So in zinc, again, if you're on a multivitamin with zinc, around 10 milligrams, you're probably fine. So I wouldn't even worry about the zinc. So, but it's relevant. So definitely get it blood tested. And without a shadow of a doubt, find out your blood type, because we'll talk about that in a deep dive in the inflammatory hair loss. But you must know your blood type. And it is becoming more and more prominent that functional medicine physicians are going, hey, you know what, maybe blood type has something to do with it. There's all sorts of different research out there that talks about there are different issues with overall wellness based on your blood type. So why wouldn't it make sense that if you have a higher propensity for different types of disease, then you probably have a different need internally for dietary factors when it comes to your blood type. So find out your blood type. So these are things, again, do a deep dive, get into your nutrition and understand the situation so that it can be helped. And I'm happy to help. Obviously, that's what this podcast is here for. If you've got questions on these and you've got more questions on obviously specific things, and you are watching this on YouTube, then please go ahead and leave them in the comments. And realistically, we're going to learn more about these things. These are details that matter. These are things that really make the biggest difference for my clients. And I really feel like if you're going to go ahead and look at these in greatest detail, then you need to have this information. So that's it for today's podcast. So at the end of the day, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about undermining the situation and undermining your hair loss so that you can be on a solid foundation for growth. Because if you have a solid foundation for growth, then your hair is not only going to regrow, it is going to be able to maintain. And that is the most important thing. My name is William Gaunitz. I am your no BS hair loss treatment provider and the host of this podcast. Please go ahead and subscribe to this podcast on whatever podcast listening platform you are listening to, because they're on them all pretty much for the most part. If you are on YouTube, please go ahead and make sure that you subscribe to this channel for more information like this, and know that this is going to be the best information that we can possibly provide for hair growth and hair loss treatment. And at the end of the day, I am happy to help in any way.